Sign up for membership on theyoungturks.com and get the whole 3-hour show plus an uncensored postgame. All righty. All of a sudden, we got a little fight going on here. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Man, today I feel hopeful. There, I said it. Now look, we got a big show ahead for you guys. Today has been chock full of news. We got the Supreme Court ruling. That's disastrous. But I'm seeing blessings in disguise everywhere. Okay, we got a lot of rain here in Los Angeles, which doesn't often happen. But I'm seeing a silver lining in that cloud. I'm going to explain. Okay, that's coming up a little bit later in the program. And then today, I mean, look, we're going to have a little bit of fun with it because I was so right on like at least 3 issues. I mean, I nailed it. Okay, all right, so that's going to be fun. And then we've, of course, got Scott Brown and his daughters who are apparently available, and his wife who has made a questionable video. Nothing but fun with that. So that's going to be great. We're going to bring in Anna to do that. So as you can tell, we already have a full show. But we're going to start with something that's more important than any of that. Okay? Because today could be the turning point. Now, what did we tell you yesterday? We said, hey, look, this Scott Brown's election could be a blessing in disguise because it might be a wake-up call that Democrats, and most importantly Obama, needed, and say, hey, remember, you were supposed to do change, and that you haven't done it yet, and you haven't taken on the banks, and the situation is as it was when you entered. So the Democratic voters and the Republican voters and the independent voters and all the voters delivered a message, okay? They delivered it in New Jersey, they delivered it in Virginia, and they delivered it in Massachusetts. Now, I say also the Democratic voters because a lot of them switched over, and certainly a lot of the independents did, and voted for Republicans because they said, look, did we stutter? We want to change. And so far, a year into it, we still don't have it. So, now yesterday we alluded to this scene being played out across the country. In this scene, the American voters will be represented by Kurt Russell, and Billy Bob Thornton will be playing the Democratic Party. And this is basically what's happened over the last couple of months. Let's watch.
Well, I'm real scared.
Damn right you're scared. I can see that in your eyes.
All right.
Now, go ahead. Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your...
Virginia.
Tired of your gas. Now jerk that pistol and go to work.
New Jersey.
I said throw down, boy.
Massachusetts.
You gonna do something or just stand there and bleed?
And that about wraps it up as to what the American voters have done with the Democratic Party over the last couple of months. And they asked basically Obama at the end of the Massachusetts election, are you going to sit there and bleed or are you going to do something? And the reason I'm excited today is because Obama came out and said, yes, sir, I am going to do something. He came out against the banks. He came out against tax cheats. That was a little earlier, actually. Yesterday he came out against that. He said he was going to go after bonuses. That was a little earlier as well. Today we find out, hey, listen, we're going to address the issue of leverage. You got to have a certain amount of money to be able to bet other money or invest it, as they say on Wall Street. We're going to separate the commercial part of the banks where we're putting our money in. United States citizens are putting our money in, and the government is backing it up from the betting and the investment that they're doing. We don't want to combine the two things as the deregulation in the 1990s, late 1990s did, because then they wind up gambling with our money. Now, we had asked them to address these issues because these were at the core of the problem. Today, for the first time in over a year, I am hopeful because Obama began to address these issues. So as I looked at it, and I was like, saw a speech and I had this tremendous sigh of relief because I've been hammering him for the last year, saying, what are you doing? You haven't addressed the real issues at all in this financial meltdown, and the things are exactly as they were a year ago. And today he came out and said, you're right, Cenk. I don't think he said Cenk. Did you catch that in the speech, Chair? All right, we'll look at the speech and find out. But he said, look, you're right. The situation is exactly as it was when I came in, that we have not regulated them. That is exactly right. And he said, I'm coming for you. Banks, I'm coming for you. Executives with your bonuses and compensations, I'm coming for you. Corporate influence, I'm coming for you. Now, you know, sometimes in the middle of a game or a race or a fight, you're fighting and fighting and fighting, and then there's just this pause for a second, a calm, and you breathe a sigh of relief. And then over the hill, I saw a man in a cowboy hat. Hey, sis, you got that picture of the man with the cowboy hat? And I heard a tune, and that tune sounded a little like this. Charge! Okay, come on, please. Now here's the thing, right? It's got to be real. That's the key part. The speech today by Obama was fantastic. Right things, right tact. He said, look, you want to fight, I'm going to give you a fight. Right tone, everything, okay? Now, but we know with Obama, two things. One, the speeches are great. But number two, we got to have action. We got to have follow-up. So trust but verify. So I see you, now I got to see you act, okay? You said the right things, you got to do the right things. And number two, the devil is in the details. When it comes to financial reform, you can say, oh yeah, the banks are the fat cats, and Obama said it before, oh boo-hoo, I'm coming for him. But if you don't do it the right way, you say, oh look, the derivatives are the real problem, so we're going to keep an eye out on some of them. No. If the naked derivatives, which are nothing but naked gambling, are the problem, then you've got to actually regulate them. And you got to, if you say you need to separate out our money from the money that they're gambling with, then you got to actually do it. You can't kind of halfway do it. And a great, article by Simon Johnson, former chief economist for the World Bank today, saying, look, if you come into this, basically, I'm going to put some words in his mouth here. If you come to this gunfight with a knife, it's not going to get the job done. This is not the time for half measures. This was an excellent start. It seems like you got the message from Scott Brown and the election there, that the people still want you to deliver on that change that you promised them. And that was critical, whether they're going to go further to selling out to the corporations in an effort to appear centrist, which is nonsense, or if they're going to be actually for the people of the United States of America. It seems that they have chosen that path, but if you've chosen the correct path, you got to make it happen. You got to finish it. So it's a great start today. It's all right to be hopeful today. Now we've got to take that and turn it into action. All right. So now I'm excited, as you can tell. Okay, I'm worked up. So what was it in the speech that got me so worked up? And why am I a little bit more certain today that it's real as opposed to all the other days when he came out and gave his speeches about, oh, yeah, we're going to go get them, and I was not at all convinced, as you remember, right? Partly because of the people he was with. Paul Volcker is the guy who has been pushing to actually do regulation the whole time, former head of the Fed. He's one of the good guys. Now, I've told you before, Volcker wouldn't go as far as I have, but among Obama's economic team, he was the best we had. And for a great majority of the first year, Obama barely met with him. Larry Summers would keep Volcker out of the meetings. Volcker hardly went to Washington. We're like, what are you doing? That's the one guy that knows what he's doing. Why don't you talk to him? So today in the press conference, who's with him? Paul Volcker. He called this the Volcker strategy, okay? And Volcker's behind it and says it's real. Okay, so that's a great clue that it's going in the right direction. And then the specifics had the right, not just tone, but the substance of it, okay? Now, again, he's got to follow through. So let's go to his speech. Got a little clip for you guys, and then I'll break it down for you as to why the things he says here made sense. Let's watch.
The financial system is far stronger today than it was 1 year ago. It's still operating under the same rules that led to its near collapse. These are rules that allowed firms to act contrary to the interests of customers, to conceal their exposure to debt through complex financial dealings, to benefit from taxpayer-insured deposits while making speculative investments, and to take on risks so vast that they pose threats to the entire system. That's why we are seeking reforms to protect consumers. We intend to close loopholes that allowed big financial firms to trade risky financial products like credit default swaps and other derivatives without oversight, to identify system-wide risks that could cause a meltdown, to strengthen capital and liquidity requirements to make the system more stable, and to ensure that the failure of any large firm does not take the entire economy down with it. As part of these efforts, today I'm proposing 2 additional reforms that I believe will strengthen the financial system while preventing future crises. First, we should no longer allow banks to stray too far from their central mission of serving their customers. In recent years, too many financial firms have put taxpayer money at risk by operating hedge funds and private equity funds and making riskier investments to reap a quick reward. And these firms have taken these risks while benefiting from special financial privileges that are reserved only for banks. It's for these reasons that I'm proposing a simple and common sense reform, which we're calling the Volcker Rule, after this tall guy behind me. Banks will no longer be allowed to own, invest, or sponsor hedge funds, private equity funds, or proprietary trading operations for their own profit, unrelated to serving their customers. If financial firms want to trade for profit, that's something they're free to do. Indeed, doing so responsibly is a good thing for the markets and the economy. But these firms should not be allowed to run these hedge funds and private equities funds while running a bank backed by the American people. In addition, as part of our efforts to protect against future crises, I'm also proposing that we prevent the further consolidation of our financial system. There has long been a deposit cap in place to guard against too much risk being concentrated in a single bank. I welcome constructive input from folks in the financial sector, but what we've seen so far in recent weeks is an army of industry lobbyists from Wall Street descending on Capitol Hill to try and block basic and common sense rules of the road that would protect our economy and the American people. So, if these folks want a fight, it's a fight I'm ready to have. And my resolve is only strengthened when I see a return to old practices at some of the very firms fighting reform. It's exactly this kind of irresponsibility that makes clear reform is necessary. Now, we've come through a terrible crisis. The American people have paid a very high price. We simply cannot return to business as usual. That's why we're going to ensure that Wall Street pays back the American people for the bailout. That's why we're going to rein in the excess and abuse that nearly brought down our financial system. That's why we're going to pass these reforms into law.
All right, now, we've got good news and bad news related to that speech, okay? So, first, the good news. Look, like I said, he handles all the right issues here, liquidity requirements, okay? So that means how much money are you going to have on hand in case something goes wrong? You know, we talked about it got so out of hand that they only had $1 for $95 in bets that they were making. So if you have a bit of problem with that bet, you just simply don't have the money to cover it. So he addresses that issue. The too big to fail issue, you know, he addresses that as well. Now, the downsides of it, and look, you heard the line in there. We have to get this done. If these folks want to fight, it's a fight I'm ready to have. Now, you know me. I wish he would deliver it with a little bit more verve, right? He doesn't have to go as far as me, right? You know how I deliver it. If these folks want to fight, it's a fight I'm ready to have. Okay, yeah, I don't have to go crazy, right? But he kind of read it. Like, if these folks want to fight, it's a fight I'm ready to have. Sound a little tougher. Okay, but I don't want to Fox News it. Who cares how he said it, right? I know. So he sounds, from a political perspective, sometimes a little too professorial. But who cares? All right, put that aside. So now, so I like that he's saying that, but now let's talk a little bit about the downside too, okay? As you can tell, I'm excited overall that he's hitting the right tones, he's hitting the right topics. But when you go to Simon Johnson's article, where he explained what Obama would have to do with the specifics, we get a little notes of caution here. He said, look, first, Obama should lay out the case of how we got here. And unfortunately, he didn't do that today. Now, in the earlier part of the speech, which we didn't share with you, he was tougher with the Bush administration. And he said, look, we lost 7 million jobs in the last 2 years. And this calamity began back in 2008 and began to, make the case that, hey, look, I didn't start this damn thing. This thing was handed off to me, okay? So it was, in my mind, a step in the right direction, but I would have taken far more steps. Why? Because it's not just about politics. It's not just about blaming it on the old guys. As Simon Johnson explains, look, you got to bring it back to Reagan. Why? Because you get to the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem is the deregulation. And here's how it happened, and here was the results. Because if people don't understand that it was the deregulation that caused the crisis, then they won't know the right avenue to go under. So when he goes to fight and the Republicans say, oh, no, he's just getting big government involved. And they're beginning to say it today. We got clips for you guys, right? That's why he's got to lay out the case and say, no, this isn't a matter of having too much government involvement. It's definitely a matter, in this case, of having too little government involvement. And let me explain to you why. And it's important because if you can't shake conventional wisdom, not just in Washington, but in the country, then you can't really begin to change the policy. And here again, we have democratic unilateral disarmament. The Republicans attack. Oh, it's the government's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the government's fault. Free market's the best. Free market is the best. And Democrats don't say, hey, no, that's not true. Free market is out of control. And the government does need to regulate. And here's why. And here's what the deregulation led to, with specific examples. See, if you don't do that, then you're fighting with at least one hand behind your back. All right, so that's a very good point by Simon Johnson. Second of all, he said something here that really caught my attention. He said, are the proposed limits, and this is a question he had about the speech before Obama gave the speech, are the proposed limits on the total size of the banks or just on a part of their operations, such as proprietary trading? The limits need to be on everything that the banks do. Now, that might sound like it's really in the weeds there, okay? But I read this after the speech, and I was like, oh, no. Because in the speech, he talked about proprietary trading, which is good that he wants to put limits on that. But Simon Johnson points out, hey, look, if you start getting cutesy and you say, well, I'm going to wall off this part of the bank, and this bank could be too big to fail, but this other part, well, they can do whatever they want with it. Well, they're just going to push the risk over there. So don't do a half measure. You got to make sure the whole bank is not too big to fail. And so there was a little note of caution there. As I went back and read the speech, I thought, he didn't really do what Simon Johnson thought was right there, and I think Simon Johnson is correct. So let's hope he continues to take more steps in Simon Johnson and Paul Volcker's direction. And then finally, point number 3 that Johnson had was, look, you got to explain to us in the speech how you're going to get this through Congress. And that part Obama did not explain, okay? Now, he said we're going to take the fight to them. That's nice, but it's generic, right? He needs to be able to say, hey, Republicans, you're either with us or against us. Much more importantly, you're either with us, the American people, or you're with the bankers, okay? Now, if he doesn't lay out that case, well, then, again, he's going to have a harder time with the talking points that the Republicans throw out there, okay? So, and I explained this yesterday. Look, the way you get real bipartisanship is not by asking for bipartisanship, not by pleading for it. Oh, Republicans, please. You know how he had them over for tea and dinner and lunch? And that surprisingly didn't work. They don't care about that. What they care about is realpolitik. Are they going to lose their seat or are they not going to lose their seat? The only way that they'll vote with you and you'll get real bipartisanship is if they're scared that they're going to lose their seat. So the way you make them scared is Obama comes out and says, look, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to say I'm going to do this regulation of the bankers because they took taxpayer money and they took too much risk with it, and they continue to take too much risk with it. Now, whose side are you on? American people or the bankers? And if you want to, if you want to have courage, the Republicans are tough guys sometimes. You want to be a tough guy and raise your hand and say, I am with the bankers. Have at it, Hoss. Okay? And then all of a sudden they'll see the polls in their home states and go, backpedal. Some Republicans have started to backpedal already. Look, this is one issue we got them on the ropes on. And now I'm seeing reports saying Obama's going to press hard on this because he thinks that this is a political winner. To which I say, of course! And that they're going to concentrate on this more than they're going to concentrate on health care or any other issue because this is the one that we can get a clear win in. Now, if they do it right, that would be fantastic, and it would then it makes me feel that the Scott Brown election was totally worth it. Because if it refocused them and it made them go after the bankers with renewed energy and put the Republicans on the spot, oh, you're going to be populist? Let's see if you're really going to be populist. If that's the result of the Scott Brown election, then I'm glad he won. Okay? I'm serious, because the 60th Democratic Senator wasn't doing us any good anyway. Okay? They weren't really getting anything accomplished, and Obama was sitting back on his heels. If this was a wake-up call, they don't really need the 60 senators anyway. Most of these things, you put the guys on the spot, you'll even get Republican votes, and on the other ones, you can do it through reconciliation. Where there's a will, there's a way. And what I think the Scott Brown election did, for the moment being, as it looks today, that I'm happy about, is that it gave Obama and the Democrats a little bit more will so they can get to that way. All right, now let's take a quick break here. And I got a lot more here. We got the Supreme Court decision and also a lot of fun little topics about the Brown family, okay? Just fun. Don't take it too seriously. And then I want to come back to this financial reform because there's so many important angles here, including Goldman Sachs and what their reaction has been and how that also proved me right. All right, Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. This segment can roughly be summarized as, go ahead, you tell me what I told you. But now it's in a variety of different areas. So first, let's start with this. I'm going through my email this morning, and, we have members, of course, on the YoungTurks.com, and they send us emails as well. They help the show in many different ways, and we have higher-level members. And one of our colonels sent me an email today, and I pay a lot of attention to that, and it was a video segment on CNN, and I was like, oh, this should be interesting, and, he's a smart guy, Colonel Papiris, and I thought, let me see if there's something we can use on the show. And so I didn't know what was coming, and it turns out that Wolf Blitzer had Tim Kaine on, and he wanted to ask him an interesting question. And it kind of surprised me to see this, but let's take a look at it and see what smart question Wolf Blitzer asked him. Clip number 7.
Here was some criticism directed at you on HuffingtonPost.com, written by a well-known blogger, Cenk Uygur. Let me read it to you. It says this: Tim Kaine seems to be running the reverse 50-state strategy. We can lose anywhere in the country. So what's he doing wrong? He's gone back to the old days at the DNC, where all you do is raise money and hope that you can win without a message. Pretty tough words. And he's on the left side.
Well, I don't think Jack knows what we're doing here. We have more money out into all 50 states and more staff than ever before through Organizing for America, and we're not going back to the old ways in terms of fundraising. We don't take money from lobbyists, federal lobbyists or PACs. We've won all 5 special elections in Congress this year. But look, make no mistake about it. We really wanted to win last night, and we didn't. That gives us a glimpse of things that we can change and fine-tune so that we can be strong in 2010. The president understands that voters have significant anxieties. I'm proud of what this president has accomplished walking into the toughest situation since FDR in March of 1933. But he made plain it's not going to happen overnight. I do know this, Wolf. Voters do not want to go backward to the Republican policies of the Bush-Cheney era that put the economy into the tank. We've got to go forward, and that's what we'll do.
That was great. So I'm watching, I'm like, what? Who? Well-known blogger. So that was awesome. Now, I'll get back to what kind of a hypocrite I am for thinking that was awesome in a second. But first, let's address the substance. Tim Kaine says, hey, Jack. That's okay. What was he supposed to know? Jank, please. Anyway, so he says, Jack, I don't think you know what we're doing here. No, I don't think you know what you're doing there, Tim. That's the problem. I'm not the one that lost 3 elections in a row. You are. I mean, you lost in, obviously, in Virginia, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, and these are very, very important elections. Now, like, for example, don't get me wrong, have they won some elections? Obviously. They won the 23rd District in New York that they hadn't won since 1872, but everybody knows that wasn't really what the Democrats did. It was that the Republicans gave that one away. They bungled it away. They ran a radical right-winger instead of the Republican candidate, and they basically gave the election to the Democrats. So, look, you got to get your own house in order and understand that the problem isn't the critics. The problem is that you're not winning, okay? Critics go away when you start to win. And so as to the substance of the issues there, he says, oh, no, You don't understand. We're using Organizing for America to spread our message out everywhere. Organizing for America is a 13 million email list that Obama handed over from his campaign, right? But they haven't used it effectively at all. They go around saying like, oh yes, please support your Democratic congressmen and senators. They're doing such a swell job. Well, nobody's buying that horse crap. Look, the way you use Organizing for America effectively is you say, hey, you know what? If Senator Ben Nelson, Democrat of Nebraska, votes with the Democratic agenda or Obama's agenda, well then Organizing for America winds up helping him in his state. But if he votes the wrong way, then Organizing for America does not help him. He does not get that support, whether it's volunteers, whether it's finances, etc. That's how you play politics. But if you're going to play patty cakes instead, and Senator Nelson knows he's going to get that help no matter what, well, then he has all the incentive in the world to vote against you and not to vote with you. So you're doing it wrong, okay? And then number two, he says, oh, no, we don't take lobbyist money. What's he talking about? Yeah, the lobbyist money goes to the members, to the actual representatives and the senators. Like, we don't know that? Like, you don't know, we don't know that when, Conrad or Baucus says, well, I can't quite do that part of the bill, or Lieberman or Bai, that they get a ton of lobbyist cash? We've done story after story. Now, you're going to pretend that that didn't happen because, at the DNC we have certain rules where, federal lobbyists or something along those lines, if you notice that stutter, we don't get money from those, so it doesn't count. Come on, the jig is up. Tim, we know what's happening, okay? Now, to my hypocrisy. I get at these mainstream guys all the time, right? And Wolf Blitzer and CNN, right? And then when they mention my name, I get giddy. Come on, that's unacceptable, right? But I have to admit, I saw it, I was like, well-known blogger, Cenk Uygur. And he got the name right? So that was a major accomplishment in and of itself. So one, I'm a terrible hypocrite. I confess. Okay, number two, look, there is some substance to why I'm happy about it, okay? If I could make a mild defense of myself, which is that, look, we ask, the reason we go after the mainstream media is because we want them to ask the tough questions, whether it's the Republicans or Democrats. And in this case, obviously I think it's a tough question because I wrote it, right? So in my blog, and they wound up quoting it. That's a great thing. Not just because it gets my name out there, which, I've already admitted I like, to be totally honest, but it's also because, well, okay, Tim, I want to see how you answer that. Because if they just have these politicians on and they don't ask them the tough questions, there's no point in having them on. So it was nicely done on their part, too. And so in the end, everybody's a winner, okay? All right, Colonel Pierce, thanks for sending that. Okay, now, by the way, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to get like giddy, like, and then stop criticizing CNN if they do something wrong. Believe me, I'm going to come after them no matter what. So, all right, now, let's move forward to other things Cenk was right about. Okay, segment's slightly obnoxious. All right. One of our other listeners sent me a note saying, hey, Cenk, did you see this? You totally nailed this. And I was like, oh, okay. I check it out. Megyn Kelly, from Fox News Channel. Remember how I said they're grooming her for her own show? Of course, gets her own show. They move her from the mornings where she was on with Bill Hemmer to giving her own 2-hour show from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. Now, it's not quite prime time yet, but they're moving her on up. Okay, and she's getting closer and closer to prime time. And the closer she gets to prime time, the more that Greta Van Susteren is like, I see you. Okay, so as expected, Megyn Kelly gets a promotion at Fox News Channel, as we told you on this program many months ago. And then there was a couple of fun things in the very small article about this that I enjoyed. Here's a quote from the Fox spokespeople. We've been incredibly fortunate to develop 2 valuable assets in Bill Hemmer and Megyn Kelly. Dividing their journalistic expertise across our daytime lineup will only serve to broaden our strength as a network. Come on. Journalistic expertise. Come on. Please, I love that. And then Hemmer had a quote. I don't want to overdo it, but I thought there was a slight tinge of something in there. He said, although I will miss starting my mornings with, that's Megyn Kelly. Hemmer's quote was, I couldn't have asked for a better co-anchor in Megyn, but I'm excited to lead America Newsroom in 2010 and continue to kick off our daytime news lineup in the morning. There was a big but in there, but I'd probably make it too much of it. Like, I liked having Megyn Kelly as a co-host. That was fine. Oh, but now we're on a bigger... Just a slight bit of bitterness that he's not the one moving up. They're giving him a new co-host, and he's staying exactly where he is. By the way, Bill Hemmer hasn't even come close to journalism. He wouldn't know what journalism is if Kurt Russell slapped him across the face with it. Okay? All he did, he's a robot, good-looking robot on air. He comes in and he reads his scripts, please. So, right about Megyn Kelly. Now, the most obvious prediction of all time. When John Edwards was having an affair, they ran the stories, and in the beginning it was the National Enquirer, and we were like, hey, you know what, you got to take it with a grain of salt, you never know, give him the benefit of the doubt. And then there were more and more evidence, and I was like, no, he's done. He's having the affair, right? And we called him. And then he came out and said, yeah, but it's not my kid. And I said, come on. Of course it's your kid. Of course. Who are you kidding, right? But he came out and said to ABC, he sat down and he said, no, that is not my child. I won't take any paternity test to prove it. Guess what he said today? It's my child. All right, so to get a load of what this guy was going to do, okay, he was asking his friend and his campaign worker, Andrew Young, to pretend that he's the dad. Now, we knew about that before, right? Now, Andrew Young's about to write a book. That's why all of a sudden John Edwards wants to clear his conscience, okay? So it was a tell-all book that was going to come out. Some of the details are fantastic. Edwards wanted Young to sneak out a dirty diaper from the baby so he could secretly do a paternity test to find out if he actually was the dad, okay? Number two, he wanted Andrew Young to find someone to fix a DNA test for him so he can say, oh, you see that? We did a DNA test and it wasn't mine. I mean, this guy is super cheesy, okay? Now, why did he lie about it when it was so obvious that it was his kid? That's the thing I couldn't figure out. I was like, what a stupid, needless lie. The jig is up, man. Just admit it all at once, right? Here's why. Because she had stopped working for him towards the end of 2006. When Elizabeth Edwards, when she first saw her, she's like, who the hell is this? And why is she so close to John Edwards? And the thing started to unravel. So they fire her, right? And he says the affair is over. In 2007, he does a recommitment ceremony with Elizabeth Edwards for their 30th wedding anniversary. That's right about the same time that Rielle Hunter got pregnant, when you trace it back to 9 months. So in order for his stories to stick and for him to not get in further trouble with his wife and with everyone else and not seem like a total scumbag, he had to say, oh, no. The affair ended in 2006, so when she got pregnant in 2007, in the middle of my recommitment ceremony, that certainly couldn't have been me. And of course, as it turns out, it was him. By the way, a couple of cute quotes here. It was wrong for me to ever deny she was my daughter. I am Quinn's father. Oh, you don't say. But his attorney, Wade Smith, says, he's not the only person involved in this. It's a complex family situation, and he had to keep in mind that other people have concerns about and worries about this as well. And that's why he hadn't revealed until now that he was the father. Right. Or it could be that the tell-all book is coming out on February 2nd. One or two of those options, I'm sure. Okay. Shockingly enough, for the moment being, Elizabeth Edwards is still sticking with him and saying, look, of course he has to be a dad to that child, and that's his business, and I'm not going to get involved in that at all, right? But they're still together, which is a minor miracle. I don't know what she's thinking. So that's Edwards. Oh, by the way, one other cute thing about Edwards. They did a poll recently of politicians in the country. John Edwards scored the lowest favorability rating ever in the history of polling among American politicians. That's pretty tough. Let me be bold and make another prediction. John Edwards' political career is over. O-V-A-H, over. But we made that prediction a long time ago, and that's the most obvious thing in the world. Okay, he's done, man. Nobody recovers from this. A columnist made a good point, though. He's like, look, so David Vitter gets to screw around on his wife. That's fine. John Ensign screws around on his wife. That's fine. But John Edwards does it, and he's totally... Now, of course, we know why. We know why. He was running for president. He's a jackass to endanger the whole party while having an affair while running for president. It's unbelievable. Number two, come on, your wife had cancer. And she was, and then you come out, and remember that cheesy thing he said? Oh, no, the affair only happened while she was in remission. Which, by the way, of course, is also not true, etc. So you know what? I know that there's the hypocrisy here about how the Republicans get away with it better, but who cares? Edwards has everything coming to him. So that's the end of the John Edwards story. So now, one last thing, unfortunately, I was right about. This is not good news, and I only hinted about this. Talked about it a little bit more in the post game, and I talked about it off air with you guys because I didn't want to talk about it on air too much. But after all this time, it has finally come to fruition. Down goes Air America. Down goes Air America. Air America, over and out. They have ceased operations. All the shows ended today, and they are filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And it looks like this is finally, and at this point, slightly mercifully, the end of the road for Air America. They gave a great fight. Look, we were part of the organization for quite some time. We were their morning show. They brought Al Franken back onto the scene from Saturday Night Live, gave him this enormous platform. He became the senator from Minnesota. Would he have done that without Air America? I think there's no way he would have. Without Air America, he would have been one of those comics on Saturday Night Live with a pretty good book, right? Rachel Maddow was an unknown when she went to Air America. Now she's a great host on MSNBC, getting great ratings. And the list goes on and on of great hosts that were at Air America. So they did, for as long as they existed, they did great work. And at times, people like Tom Hartman beat Rush Limbaugh on the ratings, etc. And they never had the liquidity that Fox News had. Fox News lost $90 million a year for 5 years before they ever made any money. Air America never had that kind of money. And they outlasted so many other conservative organizations, media organizations. So they had a great ride, and they made a difference in the country. By the end, unfortunately, I think, in my personal opinion, they had taken a couple of wrong turns, and I had advised them, plant your flag, and having nothing to do with our show. Plant your flag and say, we're liberal, we're proud, and we're not going anywhere, and fight for your convictions, just like we tell the Democrats, just like we tell the Obama White House. And unfortunately, they went with some hosts that were, well, one of them came out and said, well, I've been a Republican my whole life. But he had a big, look, well, I don't know why I'm being cute. It was Montel Williams, okay? They hire Montel Williams for an unbelievable sum of money, and the guy's not even a Democrat. Forget Democrat, he's not even a progressive. He said, well, I'm kind of in the middle. And he spent a lot of time selling something or other, some skin cream product. I don't know what it was, some product on air. Look, I don't want to get too deep into it, right? Because it didn't really affect us. We are independent operations, so it's their business, not our business. But I felt bad because I kept saying to them, you're going the wrong way. And it appears no one ever listens when we tell them that. And so, look, who cares what I thought and what I predicted? The bottom line is Air America did a great job for a long time, and it was a service that this country desperately needed. So God bless everyone who worked there, and people who made it possible by giving money, et cetera, people who listened, and there's still some great talent from there that we look forward to working with in the future. And believe me, we're going to have those conversations. So, Young Turks, we'll be right back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Listen, Anna's here. We're going to do a fun story on Scott Brown. Before we do that, look, I can't tell you, of course, everything I know because some of it is private conversations, et cetera, right, about the Air America situation. But membership has its privileges. In the postgame today for the members, I'll tell you a lot more than I should tell you, okay, Young Turk style. Again, I'm keeping it 100% real with you. Of course, I can't tell you everything, right? But I will tell you some interesting facts and why I predicted they would be finished on January 1st. And what's today? January 23rd? 22nd? 21st. Okay. Apparently, I'm not good at telling dates, though. Okay, January 21st. I was off by 20 days. Okay. So I'll explain a lot of that in the post-game show. All right. Now, Scott Brown. And I understand there's a controversy about Scott Brown offering up his daughters.
Yes. During his victory speech, for some reason, he mentioned that his daughters are available. All right? I don't know why you would do that during a victory speech when millions of people are watching you. But he did it, and if my dad ever did that, I would die.
Okay, so let's see the girls' reaction, because of course we have it on tape. Let's go to clip number 1.
Treasury Secretary
Wrong clip. No, that's clip number 4. Clip number 1 is Scott Brown. My daughters are available.
And as always, I rely on Gail's love and support and that of our 2 lovely daughters. So I want to thank Ayla and Ariana for their help as well. And just in case anybody who's watching throughout the country, yes, they're both available. No. Only kidding.
Back, pedal.
Only kidding. Ariana definitely is not available, but Ayla is.
Getting deeper.
This is Ariana, and this is Ayla.
God bless.
Well, I can see I'm going to get in trouble when I get home. And even for her campaign performances in front of millions of people, you've heard Ayla's voice already on American Idol, and as a Boston College basketball player, many fans know that she's also pretty good on the court.
Man, he's selling it hard.
Ayla said that after that speech, she received 1,600 friend requests on Facebook, and she had 300 inbox messages.
That's awesome. Okay. Now, how you doing? They are indeed available. No, I'm just playing. Look, he slipped up, right? And he shouldn't have said it, and he realized it right afterwards. I'm kidding. We got to put that on the sound machine. Okay, I got it. You're kidding, right? Then he started digging deeper and deeper into it. Now, I thought it was no big deal. Funny, no big deal. But apparently, some other people didn't see it that way. Glenn Beck had a different take. I want to share Glenn Beck's take on it before we do anything else. Let's go to clip number 3 here.
Listen, I want a chastity belt on this man. I want his every move watched in Washington. I don't trust this guy. No, I'm just telling you.
It's just a creepy moment.
No, this one could end with a dead
trying
intern.
To come up with
this one could end with a dead intern.
Stop it.
Dead intern.
I'm not sure I'd go that far. No, I'm pretty sure that's not
the distance. With a dead intern.
I'm saying, though, isn't that just a dad trying to be cutesy with a little joke about his daughters, and he creeps
in a really creepy way.
This is you.
Creepy. This is you as a guy who doesn't have daughters.
Yeah, this is what I'm seeing here is adorable, overprotective father syndrome for me.
Wait till you have not only daughters,
no.
But then they grow and they turn out to be beautiful daughters.
No. And then you everywhere you go, you're like, what are you looking at?
If I could quote Pat Gray here for a moment, do you know how many psychos are out there? I mean, yes, obviously, but these women are living their own lives, protecting themselves every day. A father saying
I'm sorry.
saying that they're pretty is not that bad.
Have you watched my life?
I have watched your life.
Yeah. Have you noticed, like, the FBI is involved?
I know, but...
I mean, do you know how it only takes one psycho? It's on a national stage.
I love that he's calling other people psycho.
I know. He's the one that eggs people on to do crazy stuff all the time. And then, of course, just like Lou Dobbs, he's like, they're coming after me. Do you know my life? We've got the FBI involved. Just bring it down, Glenn. Okay? Nobody's that interested in you that they're going to do something stupid with you. Please. Anyway, let's get back to the main point here. Okay, can they calm down?
Yeah, that was overreaction.
They're at a 10 when they need to be a dead intern. Where do you get dead intern from? My daughters are available. I mean, it was a silly little, mistake to say that, I guess. But I don't care at all. I care 0%. Does it affect how Brown is going to vote? dead intern? Where the hell did that come from? And then you assume that opens up the daughters to psychos that are stalking. What is a psycho waiting? Oh, they're available. Okay, now I'll go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how psychos operate, as far as I know. But Glenn Beck would know better than I would. Then the other funny thing was that Scott Brown mentioned that his daughter Ayla was on American Idol.
Right. She was on American Idol.
JR found the clip.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's watch.
Week of American Idol. Up next on stage is Ayla. What are you going to sing tonight?
I Want You to Need Me by Celine Dion.
You ready for it?
I am very ready for it.
You get set. We'll take a look at this.
She's a basketball player.
That's right.
This experience has been a complete change to what I'm used to back at home. When I'm back at home, I'm always in sweatpants, sweatshirts, shorts, just always working out in the gym and lifting, and I almost never know a time when I'm not sweating and working out.
I wanna be the ice and look deep into your soul. I wanna be the world to you. I just want it all. I wanna be your deepest kiss, the answer to your every wish.
Not bad.
And all you ever need. I want you to need me, like the air you breathe.
Not bad at all. And
Wow.
and I'm going to reiterate, she's tall.
Yeah, she is tall.
Okay, so Scott Brown, not guilty.
Yeah, let him go.
Let him go. Glenn Beck, guilty. All right, let's save the other story for the third hour.
Oh, the other story is so good, though.
His wife?
Yes.
Okay. If you think his daughter's videos are funny, wait till you get a load of his wife's video. Third hour, Scott Brown's wife with a very saucy video. This show is too good. Young Turks. Thanks for watching the video podcast. Of course, if you go on our website, theyoungturks.com, you can get the whole 3-hour show.
Plus an uncensored post-game show.
That's if you become a member on theyoungturks.com.